What's going on, everyone? My name is the Crimson Carver. I am a Warframe content creator over on YouTube and over on Twitch. I also play Diablo 4 as well as various other variety games over on Twitch. Now, today we are going to be jumping into the Warframe Citrine. This is going to be a full breakdown of the Warframe. Keep in mind, this is a beginner-friendly breakdown. So, without any further ado, let's jump into it and hopefully you learn something new. The Citrine comes with 400 base health, 270 shield, 255 armor, and 130 energy, with the base sprint speed of 1. Now, Citrine can be purchased from the Warframe Marketplace for 325 plat. Her main blueprint can be obtained by doing either the Tiana Pass Mirror Defense mission or trading in crystals with Otak in Deimos. Now, in order to access Tiana Pass, you will need to do the Heart of Deimos quest. Okay? And all of her subsequent blueprints can be obtained by running Tiana Pass or by trading in those crystals. Passive. Citrine grants nearby allies 5 health regeneration per second. Pick up a health orb to increase regeneration by 0.1 up to a maximum of 25. Fractured Blast. Slash and stagger enemies with a crystal blast that inflicts slash status. Enemies affected with a status effect have an increased chance of dropping a health orb and an energy orb. Drain 25, range 14 meters, damage 500 impact and slash, health orb chance 50%, energy orb chance 20%. Now, so this mod is affected by efficiency mods, right? Like, Streamline, right? This one you can get pretty early on without much hassle, so, keep that in mind. It is also affected by range mods, right? So, essentially, the range mods like Stretch or Augur Reach, which you can obtain by doing the Plains of Eidolon bounties, right? They basically increase the range at which you can hit enemies, right? And it doesn't have a count for how many enemies it hits, so just keep that in mind. So Augur Reach and efficiency mods, not a bad choice. Personally, I'd probably go with I probably wouldn't use any efficiency mods purely because of the fact that you don't really need to. It's got a low cost, so yeah, and it pretty much pays for itself. Next one we're going to be talking about is strength mods, right? So strength affects this ability, right? Fracture Blast. It increases the health orb and energy orb drop chance, as well as increasing the damage. Now, if you don't have access to Intensify, I would highly recommend you go back to the plains, right, and go do the bounties on the plains of Eidolon, right? Because they will award you the Augur set of mods: Augur Reach, Augur Secrets, and Augur Message, right? So that is strength, range, and duration. Absolutely amazing mods to be placeholders for when you eventually get what you're looking for, right? Preserving Shell. Citrine guards herself and nearby allies with a crystalline shell that gradually decays. Kills and assists increase the defense power of the shell, right? Once again, it has a drain. So, drain of 50 energy, right? So, if you are trying to reduce that initial drain, you can slap on a streamline. That should reduce the cost, right? It has a range of... Well, it doesn't have a range, right? It's affected by affinity range, essentially, right? If allies are within affinity range, they'll pick up the buff. It has a duration of 25 seconds, a damage reduction of 40% at base, and the damage reduction per kill is 3%, right? So you gain 3% stackable damage reduction on top of the damage reduction per assist, right? So you get a kill, you gain an extra 3%. You get an assist, you get an extra 1%, right? So, as we said, this is affected by efficiency mods, reducing the initial cost. It's also affected by duration mods, right? So if you don't have access to mods like continuity, you can go back to the planes, right? And you can get Order Message. It'll pretty much do the exact same thing as regular continuity. It's just at a little decreased value, so it's a placeholder for when you get what you're looking for, right? Let's see, what else? Damage reduction, right? So the damage reduction is scales with strength, right? Once again, if you don't have access to Intensify, August Secrets, cannot suggest it enough, right? The damage reduction, right, it scales with strength, obviously, but then basically it sets the base damage reduction higher, the higher the strength you have, right? Now keep in mind this only stacks up to 90%, so keep that in mind, right? Alright, next ability, Prismatic Gem. Deploy a gem that shoots prismatic beams. The gem targets enemies that are taking weapon damage from Citrine and her allies. Its beams inflict heat, cold, toxin, and electricity status effects. And status duration is increased for nearby allies. Now, what it doesn't tell you, right, is that there is a unique synergy between Citrine's first ability and this ability. Whenever you place a prismatic gem and you cast Fractured Blast, right, casting Fractured Blast kind of marks targets for the prismatic gem to target, therefore giving them all 4 status effects, right? Now, this has a drain of 75 energy. It has a range of 15 meters. It has a duration of 30 seconds. It does cold, heat, electric, and toxin damage. Does 1,000 of each. Status chance is 100%. Status duration is at 100% as well. Now, based on what we can see here, we can automatically assume that it's going to be affected by efficiency, right? And it is. It reduces the cost, which is kind of normal. It's also affected by range mods like Augur Reach. Once again, if you don't have Stretch, Plains of Eidolon, run the bounties, get Augur Reach, right? So this increases your range. It's also affected by duration mods, right? So, that being said, Augur Message, Plains of Eidolon, cannot suggest it enough, right? So, this increases the status duration, and it increases the duration of which the ability is active, right? So Augur Message comes from the Plains of Eidolon, doing the Plains of Eidolon bounties. If you can't find it in rotation, just pick up one of the bounties that do have the Augur mods. That way you can at least farm for something else that you'll need in order to, kind of bridge the gaps between whatever it is you're doing, right? Right, okay. Last but not least, it's also affected by strength. Like, this is one of the few abilities that's actually affected by all 4, right? So, what does it do? Simple. It increases the status effect damage, and it increases the status chance. Now, one thing to note, right? 100% status chance means you have a guaranteed chance to apply 1 proc, right? 1 element. Anything above 100% chance means you have a chance to apply an additional element. In this case, say you have 400% status chance, that basically means every cast is guaranteed to apply all 4, right? So, Intensify increases the chance and damage. If you don't have Intensify, go to the plains, go to the bounties, and pick up an August Secrets. Cannot suggest it enough. Right, Crystallize. Citrine summons crystal fractals that So she summons crystal fractals. The fractals rush towards seeking enemies. Enemies touched by the fractals are paralyzed by crystalline growths. Hit the growths in order to deal critical damage. Now, there is one thing to note about this ability, since it is classed as a crowd control ability, right? Xmas cannot be frozen. They cannot be paralyzed. So they'll have the crystal growths, but they'll still walk around and shoot at you and do their little effects, alright? So keep that in mind. It has a drain of 100 energy. It has a range of 30 meters? Yes, a range of 30 meters. Damage of 500 impact. The duration lasts for 8 seconds. And the critical chance is 300%. Keep in mind that crit chance cannot be modified. Doesn't matter what you throw at it, right? So, efficiency, which helps reduce the overall cost of the ability, as you can see. Doesn't really do much for anything else. I don't know if there's an Augur version of this, so just, yeah, keep that in mind. There are flawed versions which you can pick up early on. That's probably one of the first ones you'll get, to be honest. Let's see, next one. It has range, which means it can be affected by Augur Reach, right? This will increase the range of the ability. More range, more enemies you can target, right? Strength. Kind of self-explanatory. Just increases the damage of the ability. We're not really there. We really don't want more damage on this, in my honest opinion, right? So if you want strength on there, cool. If you don't have Intensify, Augur Secrets from the Plains of Eidolon. Keep that in mind, right? But there is one other stat that we haven't looked at, which is duration, right? So this ability is also affected by duration, right? So what does it do? Well, the duration increases the kind of crowd control duration this ability has. So yeah. Aside from that, there's not really much to tell. Citrine has a really balanced kit in terms of her abilities, and in my opinion, she is an amazing frame. So yeah. So at present, Citrine only has 2 augments. Now, there's really not much to say about these augments. The first one we're going to be looking at is an augment, called Prismatic Companion, right? Basically, how this works is your prismatic gem is now added to your companion instead of it being a situational ability, right? So instead of it being okay, I'm going to spawn this here and then recast it somewhere else, you can cast it, have it on your companion, and that companion will follow you around, giving you the benefits of the prismatic gem. Now, from my understanding, it is not affected by duration mods. Yes, it is not affected by duration mods whatsoever. So keep that in mind. This cannot be altered in any way whatsoever, right? Also, if you're going to do this, if you are going to go about using this particular augment, make sure that your companion is able to stay alive, right? There is various mods you can use, which you can pick up, just, kind of lying around, which should help keep your companion alive. Now, the next one we're going to be going into is Recrystallize. This is kind of cool, this one, right? So, Crystallize Augment. Enemies killed by crystalline growth stagger and spread the crystals to enemies within 16 meters. Which is really cool, right? So, basically, when you kill an enemy who is affected by the growth, what it's going to do is it's going to trigger another wave, which is going to go out and seek more enemies, right? And once again, this is affected by duration mods. So, not duration, sorry, range mods, right? You really want range on this one. See? So instead of being a base range of 16, it got increased to 20 meters. So we kill an enemy, it will find enemies within 20 meters, target them, and so on and so forth. Now, these are all the augments for Citrine at present, and if you're wondering why I haven't done a comparison, it's because Citrine does not have a prime, so there's not really anything to compare her to. But I'll be eagerly awaiting her prime release, and I'll be re-releasing a video on that when she has her prime come out with its augments, right? So typically speaking, whenever they release a prime, they'll release an additional augment or two that goes with it, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I hope you learned something new, and I hope this information helps you.
Your weapons make music, and the enemy calls for a song.
The Orichan Neural Sentry is attempting to purge you from this place. Stand by for life support. Scanning for targets. All manner of Orokin technology may work here due to the Circulus's proximity. If you have enough Gurek, you may use it. The longer you hold out, the deeper I will search. But you need to leave. Extraction is ready. These manifestations must not be allowed a foothold on Lua. Life support is at risk. Destroy them. The sentient has detected you. Fighters incoming.
They fought well. Good dance.
Lost and cry.